Goldfinger is the third film in the James Bond franchise. Sean Connery returns once again as Bond in maybe the best of his Bond films we're going to talk about today on the Golden Era Film Podcast. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Golden Era Film Podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, not guest host, Shable Vanny. Shane, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Delighted to get it stuck into Goldfinger here because it's definitely quite the trip. I think on so many levels. Been a long time since we last talked.
Yes, minutes, yeah. Literal minutes. It's not like the Dr. No episode.
Which was a few weeks.
Yeah, double recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, Goldfinger is, for me, probably the best Sean Connery James Bond film. It is fantastic. It is jam-packed with memorable scenes, shots, music, characters, performances, lines. It is gadgets, cars. It is Bond. It is James Bond. Shout out Oddjob. Been leading up to it. We are finally covering the Oddjob James Bond film. But Goldfinger. I think there's no better way to start than to say that it has maybe the best, definitely one of the best Bond themes. It is so good.
So good.
Shirley Bassey kills it with the Goldfinger theme. It's got a load of tropes that Bond films would definitely lean into going forward. It's more tongue-in-cheek, especially more tongue-in-cheek than From Russia With Love anyway. The film literally opens with Bond pretending to be a duck swimming in a lake, and then he rises through the lake and it's Bond but with a fake duck on his head. Like, it's got a lot of gags in it, but it's not too slapstick either, which is where some of the Roger Moore films kind of lean too slapstick for me personally, for my taste in Bond. That being said, he also has good films. It's got some incredible visuals, but we'll talk about them a little bit later. It has maybe the best henchman, or at least one of the best henchmen in cinematic history in Oddjob. I love Oddjob so much. And I have a serious question for the audience with regards to Oddjob, which we'll get to in a second. It is about as Bond can get with regards to classic Bond. I don't think anyone other than Sean Connery could do this Bond film and make it as good as it is. It's directed by Guy Hamilton, who does a great job. It has a budget of $3 million. So the first one had a $1 million budget and was a box office success. The second one had a $2 million budget and was a huge success at the box office. It did nearly $80 million. Goldfinger had a $3 million budget and was the first Bond film to clear $100 million, made $125 million at the box office. It was the first Bond film to win an Academy Award. It was huge. It resulted in the Aston Martin DB5 being one of the highest selling toys in the world as well. And the iconic shot of a gold painted deceased Jill Masterson would make it onto the cover of, is it Time magazine or Life magazine?
I think it was.
Which magazine?
I think it was Time.
It was on the cover of Life magazine. One of the most famous off-screen kills in cinema history as well, I would say. There's so many iconic things in this film. I absolutely love Goldfinger, but Shane had never seen Goldfinger prior to Bond month, 007 month. Shane, as a first-time viewer of Goldfinger, which I feel like a lot of people could end up being as a result of this podcast, how do you feel about Goldfinger in a spoiler-free review? Is it any use?
This is class. This is such a good film. Everything you just said, great villain, great gadgets, great kills, very inventive, not too serious, but not too cheesy or slapstick either. Just straddles the line brilliantly there. It's got got quite an interesting name for a Bond woman, shall we say?
The most famous one.
Yeah, definitely the
Has
most
to be.
famous one. Yeah, Pussy Galore. So yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Oddjob is just an incredible henchman. He really is.
One of the all-time henchmen.
Steals so many scenes. There's a great golf scene on a golf course. Golf isn't the most cinematic. Well, apart from maybe Happy Gilmore, golf isn't the most cinematic sport in the world. But they really do a good job of making it kind of entertaining and giving some stakes to that whole little Goldfinger versus James Bond kind of match. Yeah, so many great fight sequences. Especially there's a great one between Bond and Oddjob towards the end.
Yeah.
Just great stuff. It's just it's great fun from start to finish. There's no fat on this thing. There's no scene where you're like, oh, that went a bit too long, or that shouldn't be in there, or that didn't need to be in there. It's just all great stuff. Great stuff from start to finish.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. So, with regards to the Golden Hour Film Podcast Awards, I think it has to be said that Oddjob will inevitably be nominated for an award. But the question is Oddjob too prominent to be nominated for Best Random Side Character?
He's not a random side character. He's just not.
He's not a random side character. So, because as well, the fun thing about the podcast, like, you can say, oh, you don't take it too seriously or whatever. That's the thing with awards anyway. I think it's cringe when people do take their, award ceremony seriously. But, like, in all seriousness, I don't see why Sean Connery for James Bond and Harold Cicada for Oddjob shouldn't be nominated. Because, like, it's as memorable as a performance as, like, I know the acting, like the on-screen acting maybe isn't as emotionally evocative as, say, Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront or Lee J. Cobb in 12 Angry Men, but I'll never forget Harold Cicada as Oddjob. It is so great. He is so great. He has so many funny scenes because he is a non-verbal character. He communicates in two ways. He either grunts or he smiles, and that's it, and it's great. There is a scene which is amazing. It's a big action set piece which ends in Oddjob, who does this multiple times in the film, kicking Bond's ass, and Bond ends up crashing a car into a wall, and Oddjob goes over to him and just turns and smiles down the camera, and it's so good. I burst out laughing. I was like, yeah, get him, Oddjob. He's just so chuffed with himself. And he's always so chuffed with himself because for 99% of this film, Oddjob is kicking James Bond's ass. He is so competent. He is so good at his job. His little hat that he throws, the iconic scene where after the golf match, he to intimidate Bond takes his hat off and throws it as a statue, and it beheads the statue.
So good.
And then Bond tries to get back at him and throws a golf ball at him, and he catches the golf ball and crushes it with his bare hand, and then just does a little smile to himself and drives off. Oddjob is phenomenal. We've had a lot of good henchmen on the podcast. Otis in Superman was fantastic. I'm thinking back to the Universal Monster movies with the performances from Dwight Fry.
Yeah.
He was regularly a good henchman, was Dwight Fry. But for me, I think Oddjob takes the cake. I think Oddjob might be the greatest henchman in podcast history. What do you think?
Yeah, the Maltese Falcon. Who's that actor you love as well? He's up there.
Oh, of course. Elijah Cook Jr.
Elijah Cook
so
Jr.,
good.
that's it, yeah. He's great.
Elijah Cook Jr.
The Maltese
Yeah,
Falcon.
he's a great henchman as well.
Yeah,
He is a fantastic henchman.
But yeah, no, Oddjob he's right up there. He's right up there. Like you said, just the epitome of competence. Got that word right finally. Yeah,
Yes.
he's so good. He's so good. Such a good angel. He literally like Goldfinger. I love Goldfinger's master plan in this, by the way. Like what he makes up
Yeah,
because
it's actually like a good plan, which
it's
is
yeah.
fascinating.
Like there's so many master plans from villains where you're like you're going through all that trouble for no.
They just want world
Yeah.
domination or something
Whereas
stupid.
Goldfinger
Yeah.
actually, it's all about like it's really interesting, really smart. uh, but like he's not a cool character whatsoever. Goldfinger, like he's
No.
kind of a nerd really when you get down to it. Whereas Oddjob just counteracts that beautifully by just he's just so cool and he's not even trying to be cool. That's just how he is. It's great.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah. So basically, throughout the entirety of the film, we know that Goldfinger is a man obsessed with gold. He kills Jill Masterson. She ends up covered in gold body paint. It's a way of messing with Bond, getting in his head, because obviously it was done by Goldfinger. He's constantly collecting gold bars. Man likes gold. As a matter of fact, the aforementioned golf game between Bond and Goldfinger was over a block of Nazi gold. Like, gold is this man's thing.
Yeah.
And throughout the film, you're kind of thinking, oh, he's just, a cartoonish villain who is obsessed with gold. His name also begins with AU, which is very funny. What is it? Auric Goldfinger,
Auric,
which
that's
AU
it.
is the chemical symbol or the periodic symbol for gold,
Yeah.
which is great. You think he's just a cartoonish villain who's obsessed with gold. He wants to rob Fort Knox, and he gets all these people into a room, all these shady businessmen and bankers or whatever, these gangsters. They're all quite shady looking, into a big room. And again, amazing, classic, perfect Bond. He explains his master plan with a floor that moves apart and a diorama appears from the ground. Like, that is what I want to see. That is
Bond, yeah.
exactly what I want. And it's Fort Knox. He wants to break in to the bank of all banks, Fort Knox. And it's kind of implied that he is doing this incredible feat by using these guys' money to afford this master plan. That's what you are led to believe. But then he gasses everyone in the room after telling them they're all part of the plan. Because no, he is not using their gold to fund him jailbreaking Fort Knox. He now has the majority of the gold in the United States, and he is intending on setting off a nuclear bomb in Fort Knox, eradicating all gold, making it radioactive for an unbelievable amount of time, like 70 odd years or something. It's at least 50 anyway. But a long time where Goldfinger doesn't have to worry about it anymore because he's already halfway there. And he has all this gold, so it would make it the only gold in the country. It would increase his fortune tenfold. He would become so powerful as a result. And it's so interesting. And even still, not to get too ahead of myself, but it's also such an easy way of getting rid of Bond. You're just gonna handcuff Bond to the nuke. It's like, yeah. It's like, you ain't surviving this one, pal. I'm just gonna handcuff you to it. It's like, oh yeah, get him. Speaking of trapping Bond, this is also the Bond film where Goldfinger, again, you want to talk about Oddjob as an amazing henchman. Goldfinger is one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best Bond villains as well.
Yeah.
He's a very good Bond villain, especially considering in the grand scheme of things with Spectre and Blofeld and stuff. He's not necessarily the scariest man in the world, but he's a fairly competent villain. He has Bond dead to rights in the iconic scene where he's Bond strapped to a table and a laser starts at the bottom of the table and starts working its way up the table towards Bond as Goldfinger basically just berates Bond, being like, yeah, you literally cannot escape. Like, I'm just about to cut you in half. Until Bond then name drops his plan, Operation Grand Slam, and then he's like, oh, okay, hang on. Maybe I do need you for informational purposes. Maybe you can actually help me here. But no, this film is filled to the brim with iconic scenes and characters. And yeah, Goldfinger and Oddjob are fantastic. But also, as you've already said, one of the most, if not the most famous Bond girl is Pussy Galore. Yes, that is her name. And again, very competent, very layered Bond girl. She is, for the majority of the film, not interested in Bond, and very much a villain who, similar to Oddjob, just has Bond's number at all times.
Yeah, very much so. She, like I said, very very competent. I think she's a pilot as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So
she runs like a flying school
yeah,
of blonde women who, uh, for some reason, they are all blonde. It must be a Goldfinger thing, but they're all blonde. She teaches them all how to fly, and they all get involved in the master plan at the end as well. Yeah,
yeah, because like obviously back then, it wouldn't necessarily have been the most kind of progressive society, if you want to call it that. So having a woman pilot was kind of ahead of its time in a way. But yeah, then we get the whole like what you just said, the whole scene with Goldfinger and all of his criminal associates where he's laying out this master plan, and I'm sitting there looking at this. I'm like, that's actually fucking genius. That is like that's such an ingenious plan. I was like, oh, actually, I'm kind of rooting from it. He's like, oh yeah, go Goldfinger. He's like, I hope you pull this off. Good for you, man. He's giving him like whole scale models and all of how it can be pulled off, and like obviously nuclear bombs are no joke, but it's like, man, if you could pull this off, then fair play to you. Like that's just fair play, honestly.
yeah,
But yeah, Bond does manage then to attack a guard while he's kind of trapped in this cell. Takes down some key information, but then Pussy Galore attacks him again, and he just about manages to kind of slip a tracking device in, and then obviously we get into the whole kind of final act. Then Bond's allies, including I think they start to spy on Goldfinger at the farm, because Goldfinger is a farmer as well. He's a man of considerable wealth already, obviously with the amount of gold he has. But then they figure out that actually, this dude's going to set off this atomic bomb, and obviously we're only 20 years removed from obviously what happened in World War Two. So I think that the fact that this would have been so kind of so prevalent still in people's minds, especially back then, where it's like most of the world would have still had that fresh in the memory. Really, if you think there's probably as much
yeah,
time had elapsed between that and between sorry the atomic bombs and the events of this film as there has been, let's say, between 9/11 and now. And obviously we know most of the world now would still know.
less.
Yeah, probably less even. Yeah, exactly. So the fact that they're using kind of a real thing that happens to essentially drive the story forward makes a lot of sense, and it's a way of just showing to people that this is no joke what Goldfinger is trying to do here. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, just touching back on the laser scene, it's got, again, one of the most, I'm using the word iconic a lot, but it is one of the most iconic Bond films.
yeah,
Maybe the most iconic Bond film with regards to just how the sheer volume of iconic lines, characters, costumes, cars, etc. But again, the laser scene has one of my all-time favorite Bond lines, which is James Bond says, "Do you expect me to talk, Goldfinger?" when the laser turns on,
no,
and he just
I
says,
expect you
"No,
to
I
die."
expect you to die."
Yeah,
So great, so unbelievably great. We get a bunch of fun. I was gonna say fun. We get a bunch of iconic female characters in this, which is interesting because people kind of maybe who haven't seen them in a while or whatever associate Bond pussy galore. It's like,
yeah,
oh, they're sexist films or whatever, so regressive. But this film is stacked with iconic female characters in the Bond filmography. Obviously, Jill Masterson,
yeah,
yeah, she dies quite soon on. She is helping Goldfinger win a game of cards. Bond seduces her. Goldfinger doesn't take too kindly to it, kills her. Iconic scene, or shot, I should say, of her dead in the bed. Her sister then tries to
yep,
take revenge on Goldfinger in a scene where we get the iconic shot of Goldfinger in his Rolls Royce pulls up, and then we pull out, and then Bond pulls up in the Aston Martin DB5, and he gets out, and then we pull back, and then we find out it's Tilly Masterson is her name.
yep,
Is using a sniper rifle, and she tries to hit Goldfinger. Goldfinger pays no real attention to it, whereas the sound of the sniper attempt makes Bond think that this woman's trying to kill him. So then he runs her off the road and then drops her off at a garage, and she has no interest in him, really. And then when it comes to they get to Bond's lair, or sorry, when it comes to them getting to Goldfinger's lair, Bond is surveying the area, and again, Tilly's beating him to it. She already has a sniper and everything set up, ready to take Goldfinger out, but he needs Goldfinger alive, so he has to stop her from taking out Goldfinger, and he does so. But then, I want to talk about competency. Oddjob. Yeah, he does Tilly in no problem. We got a really fun car chase scene where like red oil gets used and smoke gets used and people are crashing left, right, and center. And then eventually Bond has to stop the car. He gets out one side, Tilly gets out the other, and Oddjob just takes his hat off. And we've seen it already at the statue, throws it, hits her in the head. Goodbye, Tilly Masterson. And again, you want to talk about iconic female characters in Bond. Well, she may not be iconic, she may not even be memorable, but shout out to the random granny with an AK-47 who, when Bond gets back to Goldfinger's lair, just opens fire on him. It's like all of these minions of Goldfinger's bar Oddjob are all implied to also be South Korean, because Oddjob is named as being South Korean in the film. And the only one at the base who isn't is just this random granny at the gate who pulls out a machine gun and just starts firing at Bond. So shout out to her. As a matter of fact, she can be the nominee for best random side character. Is AK-47 Granny from Goldfinger. But obviously the most iconic female character in this film is Pussy Galore. But also shout out to Moneypenny because she gets to do the hat throw in this film. So good for you, Moneypenny. Yeah. You don't get much screen time in this film, but you do get to do the hat throw, which is fun. Other than, Oddjob, who totally outshines the hat throw forever, I guess. No hat throw will ever be better than Oddjob's hat throw. But Pussy Galore is a fantastic character. Starts off as a villain. We learn that she is a pilot, an excellent pilot. She also teaches all of the other pilots in Goldfinger's ranks. And she is solely driven by finances. Yeah. She says it herself to Goldfinger, I'm only helping you out because you are about to make a lot of money from this. And he is like, well, you know what, I respect the honesty. But she does end up having to do the typical, we need you to seduce Bond to stop him from constantly trying to break out, I guess. He just keeps trying to break out of that cell.
I was about to say that.
There's a really funny scene. Yeah, there's a really funny scene where he tricks the worst cell guard in prison history into opening the door, and he beats him up, and then he ends up back in the cell again eventually, and then they cut to him and he's got like a gazillion guards all around the cell, which is pretty funny. So Goldfinger's just like, I just need you to just distract Bond for a while.
Yeah.
And she's like, fine.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Again, it's funny that she is like, okay, fine, I'll seduce James Bond. But like, she actually has no interest in him to begin with.
Whatsoever. Yeah, no, it's just very funny how he keeps escaping and just keep going back in. And Goldfinger, in fairness to Goldfinger, he's kind of amused by it, even though he's obviously irritated. He does kind of, I don't think he necessarily expects Bond to obviously, get away with him, properly stop his plan. But yeah, the bit where they, Bond and Pussy Galore, obviously shack up in a barn, if you excuse the pun. And then after that then is when kind of fast forward then to the actual Fort Knox scene where brilliant kind of you get kind of aerial shots and of all this, like just this whatever kind of gas they're emitting is making all these troops at Fort Knox pass out completely. They're all wearing gas masks, all the people about to all the baddies essentially. Then we fast forward to the kind of the vault scene. You have the great fight sequence between Bond and Oddjob. Eventually it looks like Oddjob has the better of Bond, and then Bond gets the upper hand, and eventually he manages to kill Oddjob, but it shots up brilliantly. Poor Oddjob would have wanted a better ending for him. But then the final sequence then, as the Bond was just about to go off, it's counting down 10, 9, 8, 7, and then Bonnie just on 007 7 seconds is when he finally, it's just so brilliant. Like if this was like another action franchise, I would have gone right down to the wire, but it's such a good I suppose 7 seconds is no joke, but it's such a good decision to have it be 007 seconds. Fair play.
Yeah, I love that fight scene as well because it opens with kind of like a tertiary ranked henchman of Goldfinger's. We've seen him a few times. He chickens out when he realizes that Oddjob and himself and Bond are all locked in the vault with the nuke, because Felix Leiter, who's aged about 30 years in 2 years, he has been recast, wakes up eventually and gets all the troops to wake up, and they all go and they storm Fort Knox and battle Goldfinger and his henchmen, which results in the vault getting closed with the three of them in there. And then he's like, oh my god, we have to defuse the bomb. We need to stop it. Oddjob is like, nah. And just picks up this villain on his side and just throws him down to like 6 stories, and he just hits the deck and dies. As well, some of the facial expressions from Oddjob in the fight scene are amazing. Whenever he like throws Bond on the ground, but then Bond gets Oddjob's hat and throws it at him and misses. Bond, or Oddjob kind of looks over his shoulder, giggles to himself, and then just goes like the come on, I want to fight you, with his hands. It's great. But yeah, no, great action scene. And again, I love this. I think it's a really genius way of doing it, especially with this film, because Oddjob is such a good henchman, is you almost forget about Goldfinger in the moment, and the plan gets stopped, the nuclear bomb gets stopped, everything's okay. Felix Leiter also mentions the fact that
Pussy
Galore actually rang Washington. She defected, switched sides, informed them about everything, helped stop the plan, switched the gas out in the plane and everything, so that no one will be gassed anymore. And it's like, oh, okay, all is said and done. Goldfinger, he must go for Goldfinger in the next film or something, because then he boards a private jet to go to Washington, and they kind of make jokes like, oh, we've enough bar in the minibar for 3 people for you. And he's like, oh, who are the other 2? And he's like, oh, there is no other 2, James. Enjoy your flight. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, turns out Goldfinger has commandeered this private jet. It's not going to Washington. It's going to Cuba. Goldfinger pulls out his gold gun, which is great. Which is also funny that there is then the man with the golden gun. But, yeah. A callback to a previous scene, which is something that these Bond films do so well, is because he... initially, when he first meets Pussy Galore, it's on a private jet and she pulls a gun on him, and he's like, you realize how dangerous it is to fire a gun on a plane. She listens to him. In this case, Goldfinger doesn't listen. He fires, he misses, he hits a window opens, they scuffle. Long story short, Goldfinger's gone out the window. Yes, Goldfinger meets his demise by getting sucked out of the window of a plane and falling to his death. And Pussy Galore, who was basically held hostage as pilot, tries and fails to successfully land the plane. The plane smashes into the sea, into a raging, fiery wreck. But it turns out that they ejected just beforehand. They're underneath a giant parachute. She kind of goes to signal SOS, and then Bond is like, oh, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, right, okay. And then that's the end of the film. That's kind of... Pussy Galore's like, fine, okay, fine. That's how it ends. It's great. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that ending. Oddjob gets his moment. Goldfinger gets his moment. And then we get the Bond, Pussy Galore. Okay, fine. We're on the same side now. But yeah, that's Goldfinger. Shane. Goldfinger? Any good? Any use?
Yeah, this is my favourite of the Connery Bonds so far. I've really liked them all, but I think this just has the most complete script. Great villain, great Bond song. Probably the best Bond song, honestly, that I've probably seen in any of the films I've seen so far.
It's at least, at bare minimum, top 3 for me.
Yeah.
And it's not third.
Yeah, like it's right up there.
Love Live and Let Die.
Yeah, actually I haven't seen that. Although I'm sure I've heard the song actually now you mention it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Great, obviously Bond is great. Pussy Galore is a great Bond villain in herself, and then obviously as we this story goes on, obviously she's not a villain, but yeah, Oddjob is iconic. Goldfinger's a great villain with an incredible master plan. Great Bond song. Like I said, the perfect amount of fun comedy and kind of silly comedy, but not straying too far down that road. So there's definitely like there's a great ejector gag ejector scene where it's quite comical actually, where he just comes out and he's straight back down. Like you'd think it would be, it looks kind of funny, but I think that's very much intentional. Um, Great fight sequence between Bond and Oddjob, and a couple of other great fight sequences as well. The plane sequences, great, and then obviously quite funny when Goldfinger just kind of flies to his death. I think this is definitely the most complete film so far. I think Doctor No was a great opening and a weak ending. I think From Russia with Love has a kind of a weak opening and a great ending, but this is just great from start to finish. So I went 3.5. I think I went 3.5 for the other films as well, actually. But as far as what I prefer, I think this is definitely the strongest of the three that we've covered so far on Bond Month.
Yeah, I'll be honest, as we're talking about it, because I did kind of consider it, I just feel so much more strongly about this than the other two, and I really like the other two. I gave both of the other two 4 stars. I really, really did enjoy them. I gave this 4 stars in my Letterboxd review. I'm going to go back and change it. This is one of my favourite Bond films. This, GoldenEye, Casino Royale are my top 3. Yeah, they are my top 3 now. This is worked its way into my top 3. The first time I watched this, I gave it 3.5 stars. I've said that about the previous two films. The previous two films I loved more than the first time. This one, everything clicked for me. Everything I could want in a classic Bond film is in this. And I know you're probably thinking, well, if it's everything you want, then why is it not 5 stars? Shut up. Star ratings don't matter. No. This, for me, is a fantastic 9 out of 10 film. It's so enjoyable. It's so fun. It's everything that classic James Bond should be. I love all the characters in it. There's so many great characters. The music is great. So many iconic shots. So many iconic things. So many iconic lines. It's also the one where we see Q's lair for the first time. There's so much random shit going on in there. Like, what is he planning for? What is he actually planning for? It's great. I thoroughly enjoy Goldfinger, and I couldn't recommend it enough. I still think it's worth maybe starting off with the other two and working your way up to Goldfinger.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, they're both class, Dr. No and From Russia with Love. Neither of them are perfect, but they're so enjoyable, and they both have their moments where they are exceptional films, and they absolutely deserve to be some of the most talked about big budget blockbusters of the 60s. But this is a whole other level for me. I absolutely love Goldfinger. I couldn't recommend it enough. 4.5 stars. It is, for me, it's similar to like Richard Donner's Superman. It's like why wouldn't you people often get so caught up in like dramas and thrillers when it comes to awards for acting performances that like the big budget films, the comedy films, the even horror films as well, to be honest, get overlooked when it comes to acting because they're seen as like more genre films than necessarily, I don't know,
prestigious,
something deeper, something less surface level. But like, this film is so enjoyable, and James Bond, Sean Connery, is so iconic, so great. Like, we laugh when we joke about how amazing Oddjob is and Goldfinger and stuff, but like, how on earth you're still rooting for Bond with all these class villains is a testament for me anyway as to how good Connery is.
Yeah,
because that's
true. Good point.
It is a thing where like you watch a film, it's a huge part of wrestling as well, I feel, is often when the villain is cool, as a result you don't really care about the good guy. You don't really want the good guy to win because the villain's so cool. Whereas in this case, Bond is still cool. Connery is still great. Oddjob is an amazing henchman. Goldfinger is a fantastic villain. Pussy Galore is a incredible Bond girl. And we've so many fun sequences with them. But Sean Connery as James Bond is amazing. And it's my favourite Connery Bond, definitely. I've totally come around to it now. It is definitely my favourite Connery Bond. Next week, we cover Thunderball, which I haven't seen in ages. Shane has watched it. We'll not disclose what we think of it just yet. We'll talk about that next week. And then after that is the final one. But in the meantime, Shane, have you watched anything else recently besides Thunderball?
Yeah, I have. So first up, I if anyone's seen The Awful Truth, the Cary Grant, Irene Dunn comedy,
I have not seen it.
It's very fun. It's actually essentially a much better version of Mr. and Mrs. Smith for anyone who wants to. It's essentially what Mr. and Mrs. Smith wants to be but isn't. But this is also starring those two from I think a year or two later. My Favourite Wife, it's called. Starring Cary Grant as a guy who becomes an accidental bigamist, believe it or not. So his first wife goes missing for a number of years. She's missing, presumed dead. He eventually gets her kind of, because her body has never been recovered. Eventually the courts do declare her dead. And then he marries his new wife. But wouldn't you know, on the very day they go off on their honeymoon, they check into their hotel, and he sees his old wife there, who has come looking for him finally to be reunited. And then shenanigans ensue. It's a whole thing. Yeah, it's very, very charming. It's quite funny. It's definitely not nearly like my favourite Cary Grant comedy, but he's just so charismatic that, listen, it's Cary Grant and a comedy, and if that's your thing, then you're going to be great. And Irene Dunn's really good as well. Killer's Kiss is, I think, the second film directed by Stanley Kubrick. Quite watchable. It's definitely, like, by no means his best work by any means, but it's just over an hour long, so like it's very, very short. It's a noir following a boxer who gets mixed up. Jeez, easier for me to say. A boxer who gets mixed up in some shady dealings through no fault of his own, really. Definitely kind of, I think, just before The Killing, which is, I think, probably a lot of people consider the first great Kubrick film. You can see some of those kind of those hints of promise, but it's not as fully formed as that film. So there's definitely some really, really nice cinematography in this, and it's an interesting enough story, but because the acting is maybe not as great as you would get in some future Kubrick films, and the story isn't, even at just over an hour long, the story isn't quite as tightly structured as it should be. It's still watchable. It's still, like, I would still recommend it, but it's definitely not nearly his best work by any means. Amadeus is a film I wanted to watch for a long time, and it's been restored in 4K and re-released over here in Ireland, so I went to go and see it, and it's absolutely amazing. Such an amazing film. F. Murray Abraham plays Antonio Salieri, who is... To say this guy is like the ultimate hater is an understatement. This guy... It's based on a play, I believe, and like some historical content or some historical figures have said, some historical analysts have said that the film isn't any way like kind of factually correct. Like the Salieri and Mozart didn't have this feud. I don't know. I'm choosing to believe it's true, because if it is true, then Salieri is just such. It's like if you want a role model to be a hater, it's Salieri. He does some twisted, dark things in this. The master plan he has to finally get rid of his arch nemesis. The funny thing about it is it's completely one-sided as depicted in the film. Like, Mozart doesn't care about Salieri at all. He just doesn't... He makes fun of him a little bit, but he doesn't really, give a shit about him one way or the other. Whereas Salieri, because he sees Mozart as, like, God's instrument on earth, like, he's so jealous of his talent and what he believes to be this God-given talents and his instrument, God's instrument. And he's so jealous that it's not him. He just becomes so rage-filled and so fueled with envy and jealousy and anger. And, oh man, his master plan is so twisted. I won't get into kind of what he does in the film, which again is probably not even historically accurate, but it's very, very entertaining and dark and twisted. And yeah, great performance from F. Murray Abraham. Tom Hulce or Tom Hulce. He's great as Mozart as well, though, but F. Murray Abraham steals the show, especially the way the film is structured. So it's the old man Salieri looking back on his past and what he's recounting this from obviously, elder age, but even the way he's recounting this from like an elder age, but even the way he's shot in these old scenes where he's has this old age makeup on, and like he looks demonic, like he looks like he's just this kind of, he almost looks like he's Satan's instrument in those scenes. It's so well shot. Absolutely loved it. An amazing film. Really, really recommend people check that out. From Milos Forman, who's a director I haven't seen enough of his work, but Yeah, it's an amazing film. The Naked Gun, the new Naked Gun, directed by The Lonely Island's Akiva Schaffer. I love The Lonely Island. Starring a boy, Liam Neeson, Ireland, one of Ireland's finest, and Pamela Anderson, who's great as well. I was quite nervous about this because The Naked Gun is obviously so unique, like that Abraham Zucker kind of brand of comedy where it's you have incorporates wordplay, incorporates sight gags, it incorporates just the most dumb, stupid jokes known to man. I was like, oh, can they really pull it off in the modern age? They definitely can. It's so funny. Like for every three jokes, you're probably gonna miss a fourth because you're just so busy laughing at the rest. Like it's one of those films that just demands repeat viewings because for every joke, it's probably packing in about like an insane number of jokes in every scene that you can't even catch all of them by any means. The story doesn't matter whatsoever. The story is just there to like it's a completely nonsense story, but I don't care. Like the story is literally just there to as a vessel for these jokes, and it's so funny. Absolutely adored it. It's so much better than most of these legacy sequels where it's like you can tell they're just there to make a buck. Listen, obviously it'd be amazing. I hope it does do really well at the box office because, to be honest, comedy in theaters, in cinemas and theaters especially, is kind of a dying art form. There's not nearly enough of them as there used to be. So I hope it does well enough that it kind of. First of all, I want more sequels to this, but I also hope there's more original comedies being made because just there's not much better than going to a cinema and just laughing at a bunch of dumb jokes. And finally, a film I've been wanting to watch for a long time. Spike Lee is just about to release his remake or his reimagining, whatever. Harry's seen it actually at the Cannes Film Festival. I haven't seen it yet, highest to lowest, but High and Low from Akira Kurosawa is again a film that I wanted to see for a long time. Yeah, powerful stuff, brilliant story. I know it's based on a novel. Actually, wants me to check out. This makes me want to check out the novel as well. But Toshiro Mifune, obviously such a legend. He's amazing in this film. Like a really honestly unlikable character for most of the film, but yeah, he does this thing, and you can tell the moral quandary he's in because essentially, if he does the thing that he's being asked to do, it will ruin him financially. Him and his family will never be the same again. But it's also like, how can he not do it? Like from a moral standpoint, if he didn't do it, it would almost be worse. Like that would just be a failure on so many levels morally. So it's so much more interesting. I'm not going to spoil it what happens either, but it's much more interesting the route they go down as opposed to if something else had happened and if another person had been I won't say, but you know what I'm saying here, because it actually does make you think. Because obviously, if one thing happened, he's obviously going to do that thing, but the fact that it's a different thing actually does make it more of like a moral kind of question about, all right, what would you actually do in that situation? So yeah, I'm not going to spoil. Obviously, it's a film that's been out 60 years, but obviously, I'm sure the remake from Spike Lee will have kind of similar questions as well, potentially. So I don't want to spoil it from that point of view, but it very much lived up to my expectations, and the ending is again very, very powerful. No spoilers, but yeah, it kind of brings into focus what the whole film has been about, and it's dealing with some real one of Kurosawa's best kind of qualities is he deals with all these kind of social issues and like socioeconomic kind of that whole kind of question as well, and he definitely delves into that in a lot of his films, that kind of stuff, and that comes to the fore in the final scene in particular. So yeah, absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's what I've checked out recently. What about you?
Yeah, I've seen a couple. I started off with Happy Gilmore 2.
Not seen that yet.
I absolutely hated this movie. I was so let down. I really liked the first one. The only positives that I have about this film is, for whatever reason, Christopher McDonald decided to actually act in this film, and Shooter McGavin has like it's hilarious. He's like actually acting, and around him is I saw someone call it Fortnite the movie. It is literally a movie where Adam Sandler has a scene. There's a cameo. The guy is so weird. Second cameo, something happens to the weird guy. Rinse and repeat. And the only thing that is a break in this vicious cycle is Shooter McGavin's arc, which is bizarrely good. It's so strange. It doesn't get enough time though. Christopher McDonald is so good in this film, and it's so wasted. It's so wasted. This film, genuinely, I genuinely think that a good film exists here, and it's just not this. The film is Shooter McGavin, and you do it from Shooter McGavin's point of view because his character has such. He is the he like it's not spoiling anything. Not that anyone I can't imagine really cares about spoilers or Happy Gilmore too.
Yeah.
But like, it would have been an infinitely more interesting film if you had done it from Shooter McGavin's perspective and not the inevitable Happy Gilmore. He's retired. He has to come back. He has to beat the young guys. Like it's yeah. MJF is in it. And the only other positive that I have is that Bad Bunny is genuinely the only funny part of the movie. He's actually funny. Like, John Daly is unintentionally funny just because it is John Daly, whereas Bad Bunny's performance is funny. Bad Bunny is actually quite funny in this film. Besides that, I feel like Adam Sandler in recent years has kind of, not salvaged, but definitely kind of thrown questions into his reputation as an actor because he had so many good serious roles. Because like 90s Sandler is a different Sandler to early 2010 Sandler. They are entirely different specimens, and this felt so much more along the lines of Grown Ups to Jack and Jill than say Punch Drunk Love and Happy Gilmore. It feels more like 2010s Sandler, but it is just a film about how many cameos can I get in, which, I mean, if you're a person who is a fan of cameos, this will be your favorite film ever, I guess. But yeah, it's just cameos. The film is just cameos. I then watched The Hateful Eight for the first time.
Oh, for the first time, right?
And yes. Yes, it's very good. It's definitely not my favorite Tarantino film, but I can now honestly say that Tarantino has never made a bad film.
Yeah,
which is good for him.
I'd agree with that.
But yeah, The Hateful Eight is very good. I would imagine this is how most people discovered Walton Goggins, which is interesting to look at retroactively, considering he's kind of going through a bit of a. He's kind of in the spotlight these days.
It's interesting because Walton Goggins is one of those actors, because I watch like a fair amount of TV. I think you don't really watch much TV. So Walton Goggins is amazing on The Shield, which is like one of the best TV shows of all time. He's great. I actually haven't seen Justified, but he's great on that. He's great in Voice Principles with Danny McBride. He's great in The Righteous Gemstones with Danny McBride. Like you said, The White Lotus. He's done so many, like his TV career, he's genuinely one of the best TV actors of the past 20 odd years. But like his cinema career, I know he was actually originally in Django Unchained and his role was cut down very significantly, which is why Tarantino felt really bad about that because he loves him as an actor, which is why he gave him this role in Hateful Eight. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like his cinema career hasn't really... Maybe it's because he doesn't really want to be a film actor. Maybe he loves TV, I don't know. But like his cinema career hasn't really gone down the route you would expect for such a good actor. So that's probably why, I guess.
Yeah, I just thought that was fascinating. Yeah, like it's everything I expected it to be. It's Tarantino doing his epic western. He literally has Morricone doing the score. Yeah, like it's an epic western directed by Tarantino with a bunch of famous actors in it who all give good performances. Samuel L. Jackson's in there, and there's some twists along the way. It's very long, but you'll probably still enjoy it. It's like I feel like a lot of Tarantino films, everything's already been said about them. I then watched Murder for a couple of reasons. Turns out I had never seen a film from the year 1930 before, which is really random. Like I've consciously seen a film from every single year from this year back to 1931, like multiple from most years. And then from like 29 down, most of them as well. Randomly never saw a film from 1930. So I watched Alfred Hitchcock's Murder. Admittedly, I was probably a little tired watching it. But the film has some crazy high highs, but for the most part, I was really bored. I was really, really bored by this. It definitely has a jury scene that is a clear inspiration for 12 Angry Men, where everyone wants to condemn this person except for one. Obviously, this was made long, long before 12 Angry Men. But yeah, it's got an incredible ending. Like, for a film where I was pretty bored for a lot of it, to be honest, the ending, I was so surprised at how much it got me, because I'd convinced myself that I was not into it. I was not interested. And then the ending happens, and it's like, holy fuck, Hitchcock. In 1930, you're doing this? That is crazy. It's one of the best endings to a Hitchcock film in his early career. Maybe the best ending to a Hitchcock film in his early career. Which is a shame, because the film that it bookends isn't amazing. I'd love to rewatch it and love it, but yeah, it also is one of them interesting films because Hitchcock directed two films, and for some reason, the other one never gets referenced or mentioned, and never is included in like Hitchcock ranking lists. Which is Mary, which is the German language version of this film that Hitchcock directed simultaneously. Similar to Dracula and Spanish Dracula, you have Murder and you have Mary. And I have Mary, but I haven't seen it. But I'd be interested to know if anyone's seen Mary and Murder, if Mary is any better. Because, yeah, the courtrooms, or the jury scene is very good, and the scene between, without spoiling anything, the accused and the Henry Fonda type character is very interesting, and then the ending is like phenomenal. But for the most part, I wasn't into this at all, really. And then last but not least, I watched the fifth Star Trek film, Star Trek: The Final Frontier, which is bonkers. I know Star Trek fans, like, it's maybe the most polarizing Star Trek film there is. Some people say it's so bad it's good. Other people say it's like Batman and Robin, the George Clooney film. It is utterly insane. Like, cinematography wise, it's like, it starts off with like this Lawrence of Arabia type character in the desert, and it's like they're at Mos Eisley from Star Wars, but simultaneously Captain Kirk, Dr. Bones, and Spock are having a lads camping trip at Yosemite, and Captain Kirk has now become obsessed with free climbing and is trying to climb Yosemite, and the lads are just like, what is he doing? He's crazy. And it's just bizarre. It's like, it leans into the comedy nowhere near as good as Star Trek 4, which is amazing. But it is a bit of a mess. It's such a bizarre film, and spoilers for Star Trek 5. It ends in them killing God. It's random. It's a random film that goes in bizarre directions. Spock has a brother. Like, these are all spoilers, I'm aware, but like, it makes no sense. The film makes utterly no sense. And the guy who plays Spock's brother is like a fantastic stage actor who gives like a proper performance, similar to like Shooter McGavin and Happy Gilmore 2. It's like, what is this guy doing being really good in this film? It's almost jarring that he's like trying really hard and executing his lines so well. I don't know, it's bizarre. Star Trek 5 is bizarre. It's also directed by William Shatner, which totally makes sense that bizarre film. But yeah, that's everything I've watched recently. So yeah, next week we are doing Thunderball, the fourth Sean Connery James Bond film. Maybe a little dip in form, who knows? But yeah, in the meantime, this was the Golden Era Film Podcast episode where we covered the incredible Goldfinger. And yeah, that's about it. I've been Harry Bailey.
I'm Shane Funny.
And we'll see you all next week for Thunderball. Goodbye.